Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has warned Washington that U.S. involvement in the conflict would lead to irreversible damage.
Chaos erupted in the Spanish parliament in the first session since a top aide of Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez was implicated in a corruption scandal. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled 6-3 in favor of upholding a 2023 Tennessee law which restricts minors' access to gender-affirming care and medication.
The conflict between Israel and Iran has entered its sixth day of open hostilities, with fresh Israeli airstrikes targeting Tehran overnight and into Wednesday afternoon. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei strongly rejected U.S. calls for surrender, delivering a warning to Washington.
ورود آمریکا در این قضیه 100% به ضرر اوست. اونچه که او در این زمینه ضربه خواهد خورد به مراتب بیشتر است از اونچه که ایران ممکنه صدمه بخوره. صدمه آمریکا اگر ورود در این میدان بشه، ورود نظامی در این میدان بکنه، صدمه جبران‌ناپذیری خواهد بود بدون تردید.
The Ayatollah's comments come a day after U.S. President Donald Trump demanded unconditional surrender in a social media post, adding that the U.S. knows where he is but has no plans to kill him yet. The latest Israeli strikes hit one facility used to make uranium centrifuges and another that made missile components, the Israeli military said. Iran has fired fewer missiles as the conflict has worn on. It has not explained the decline, but Israel has targeted launchers and other infrastructure related to the missiles. The death toll of Russia's latest attack on Kiev rose to 28 on Wednesday, as rescuers continue to pull more bodies from the rubble of an apartment building demolished by a Russian missile. Authorities said 23 of those killed were inside the building, which took a direct hit and collapsed. The remaining 5 died elsewhere in the city. It was the deadliest attack on Ukraine's capital this year. Ukraine's interior minister said that search and rescue operations lasted over 39 hours, involving 400 rescuers. Russia fired over 440 drones and 32 missiles into Ukraine overnight into Tuesday in an almost 9-hour-long attack primarily targeting Kiev. The Ukrainian Air Force said its air defenses destroyed 428 air targets. Russia has launched a summer offensive along parts of the roughly 1,000-kilometer front line and has intensified long-range attacks that have struck urban residential areas.
Chaos erupted in the Spanish parliament in its first session since Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's top aide was implicated in a corruption scandal. The chaos was orchestrated by far-right Vox Party leader Santiago Abascal, who called Sanchez indecent, corrupt, and a traitor before quickly leaving the chamber. Last week, Spanish police released audio recordings which confirmed that Santos Cerdán was involved in a scheme which saw him take kickbacks in return for public work contracts. Cerdán, who was the number 3 in command in Sanchez's Socialist Workers' Party, denied any wrongdoing and resigned from his post. Spanish lawmakers demanded Sanchez's resignation as they continued to press the premier to call for snap elections. Sanchez, however, deployed a more offensive tactic in a dramatic shift from last week's apologetic tone. The Spanish leader referenced corruption cases involving other parties in a bid to undermine their standing. Sanchez referenced the Gürtel case where hundreds of opposition People's Party officers were implicated in corruption allegations including bribery, money laundering, and tax fraud. Sanchez noted that his party actively addresses corruption issues as soon as they surface while accusing the PP and Vox of covering them up. PP leader Alberto Núñez Feijóo accused Sanchez of attempting to act like a victim as he slammed him for being deeply entrenched in corruption. He also blasted Sanchez for not calling for snap elections as he claimed the Spanish premier knows he'd lose. The U.S. Supreme Court upheld on Wednesday Tennessee's ban on gender-affirming care for children. The justices ruled 6-3 that the 2023 law restricting minors' access to treatments such as puberty blockers was not discrimination. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that the ruling does not violate the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause, which requires the government to treat similarly situated people the same. The 3 liberal judges on the panel denounced the ruling, arguing that it may have profound impacts. Justice Sonia Sotomayor stressed that the ruling effectively abandons trans children and their families to political whims. The case also provides protection to many efforts by the Trump administration to roll back protections for transgender people. The ruling can now be used as precedent by 26 other states which have similar laws to Tennessee. Since returning to office, Trump has moved to define sexes as male and female, banned transgender athletes from women's sports, and restricted their access to public spaces. The Supreme Court has also previously granted Trump the freedom to kick trans service members out of the military despite ongoing lawsuits.
United States envoy to Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, is reportedly planning a trip to Belarus in the coming days to meet with President Alexander Lukashenko. It's believed his visit is an attempt to revive the largely stalled peace talks between Ukraine and Russia. However, given Lukashenko's close alliance with Russian President Vladimir Putin, opposition leader Sviatlana Tsikhanouskaya expressed strong doubts about his role in these talks.
I don't think that Belarus can be a place for negotiations on the war, because Lukashenko is part of this war. He's co-aggressor and he's serving to Putin's interest, and he cannot be trusted at all.
She added that the Kremlin's war in Ukraine has in fact drawn the Belarusian and Russian leaders even closer together.
I think that the war was a blessing for Lukashenko, and he doesn't want this stop of the war because he's earning huge money on militarizing of our economy. They're producing a huge amount of stuff for Russian army, and in this atmosphere of sanctions against Lukashenko's regime, is a good source of income for him. So he's not interested in peace. He maybe might want to be important, in this deal, but he's not independent actor here.
If the visit takes place, Kellogg would be the highest-ranking American official to travel to Belarus in some years.
Pope Leo XIV warned on Wednesday that high-tech weaponry makes the world a much more dangerous place, and that deploying them on battlefields could bring a level of barbarity far greater than that of past times.
Il cuore della Chiesa è straziato per le grida che si levano dai luoghi di guerra, in particolare dall'Ucraina, dall'Iran, da Israele, da Gaza. Non dobbiamo abituarci alla guerra, anzi bisogna respingere come una tentazione il fascino degli armamenti potenti e sofisticati. Pertanto, in nome della dignità umana e del diritto internazionale, ripeto ai responsabili ciò che soleva dire Papa Francesco: la guerra è sempre una sconfitta, e con Pio XII nulla è perduto con la pace, tutto può esserlo con la guerra.
Speaking to the crowd gathered in St. Peter's Square, the Pope appealed for peace.
Israel could be the first country to be targeted by a reform to the EU's mechanism to suspend short-stay visa-free travel into the bloc and Schengen area, multiple sources have told Euronews. The new rules agreed on Tuesday between the European Parliament and member states amend the grounds for suspending visa-free schemes to include violations of international human rights or humanitarian law. This would apply to decision-makers responsible for the breaches.
So we are not targeting any single country, but actually we are trying to boost and to help the Commission the tool that allows us to implement, the human rights and the international law.
But sources say Israel, which is among a list of 61 countries whose citizens enjoy visa travel to the Schengen area for short stays, could be first targeted as it fields accusation of war crimes and crimes against humanity in its war on Gaza. To trigger the mechanism, the European Commission will have to issue an implementing act calling for such a suspension, which will require the approval of member states with only a qualified majority necessary to block the motion. Countries in the Schengen area can also request the mechanism be triggered by notifying the Commission they believe the criteria have been met. Both the Parliament and the Council now need to formally approve the new rules.
The world's largest annual kite festival is underway on the Danish island of Farnø, bringing together more than 5,000 enthusiasts from countries across Europe, Asia and the US. Known as the Farnø International Kite Flyers Meeting, this year also marks a special milestone for the festival.
We're happy to be able to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Farnø International Kite Flyers Meeting, because it went from a very small, not even a festival, just a couple of tourists flying kites, and then to now where we, after 40 years, we are the biggest kite flyers meeting in the world.
Kites originated in Asia and later made their way to Europe, where they evolved into both popular children's toys and instruments for scientific discovery. A standout example is the festival's 100-metre-long Indonesian kite, which was first paraded through Nordby, a historic Danish seafaring village dating back to the Viking Age. In Indonesia, kites hold a deep meaning, serving as cultural expressions, spiritual symbols and intricate works of art. Throughout the festival, there will be a number of events, including themed kite competitions and workshops by Indonesian kite makers.